Boredom is your greatest friend. Boredom is actually great for you. When we were kind of growing up as kids, boredom was always a bad thing. If we were bored, we should go do something. We should go outside. If we were bored, we should go do some chores or put on a TV show. And often, when we're faced with boredom, we often distract ourselves. But I think boredom is actually kind of the doorway to inner healing, you know? There's studies and scientific proof that boredom calms down your nervous system. Boredom, when you allow boredom and embrace boredom, it reduces anxiety. When you become bored because there's no stimulation, there's no external stimulation, there's no music to listen to, there's no videos to watch, there's nobody to talk to. You're just by yourself. You're bored because there is literally nothing for your brain to entertain, which is great for your nervous system because your nervous system eventually activates, it's called a default mode network. And basically, on a physical level, this allows your body to rest and digest. But what this also does is, because there is no stimulation, because there is no external emotions or external thoughts, this default mode network kind of activates this inner healing almost. It lets you process your emotions way better. Emotions that you haven't really dealt with, they kind of come to the surface, and it kind of trains your brain to become comfortable in psychological discomfort, you know? Because usually, especially on social media, this activates our fight or flight nervous system because there's constant emotion, there's constant stimulation that our brain has to process, which often leads to kind of anxiety because this is just overwhelming our brain so much, That's why meditation is so helpful, because it allows your body to you kind of give yourself the time to let your brain and your nervous system cleanse and regulate, It really slows us down, it cleans us out, But the big challenge, something that I face, is that even though we know all these benefits, when we're in the moment, we want to reach for our phone so badly, So you need to ask yourself, what are you trying to distract yourself from? What is making you so uncomfortable just sitting by yourself? If you don't know, it's probably because I don't blame you, but you haven't really taken the time and allowed your body and your nervous system to kind of regulate, So what we need to do is sit down in this silence and become bored, you could say, and we will find a lot of answers to ourselves, It's hard. What I do is I put my phone in a different room, because if my phone is right next to me and I hear a notification pop off, or if I think of something that I want to watch, I'll immediately grab my phone, Our phones are very addicting, so I think the best way is to just put your phone in another room. If you need to set 15 or 20 minutes of just boredom time, do that, where you just put your phone in a different room, sit down and just do nothing. Do nothing, and eventually you'll kind of know yourself in this like almost journey of boredom where you discover a lot about yourself. It's a journey of healing, it's a journey of understanding yourself, which is the most important part, understanding yourself, And what I really learned from this, I never thought of before, is that boredom often increased my energy and my focus. when I didn't have a lot of stimulation, my brain needed less stimulation to operate in a comfortable state, which means now I could read and I wouldn't have the urge to pick up my phone, or I could just focus on tasks, even simple tasks like even folding laundry. That came easier because I didn't need much stimulation. Doing the dishes or cleaning my room, cleaning the bathroom, literally doing anything. It becomes a lot easier. You become, you just start to take on action effortlessly, because your brain does not need a lot to operate on once you become bored more often. Once your brain quiets down and settles down, I think even on a day-to-day basis, your thoughts slow down. This anxiety really diminishes because in this boredom state, your brain learns how to process emotions a lot better. If you're psychologically uncomfortable, if you practice boredom, if you practice meditation, you'll become a lot more comfortable in that state. Your thoughts will slow down, I guarantee it. And through this also increases energy. I have noticed a big difference because whether you know it or not, doom scrolling and just watching and consuming content does take a lot of energy. It takes mental energy because even though you're on the couch or you're on your bed relaxing, you're physically resting, your brain is working so fast. Your nervous system is in that fight or flight mode we talked about because there is so much stimulation, there is so much emotion, there's so much analyzing that your brain is doing just kind of on a subconscious level. So that's all I have to say. I think practicing boredom will be very impactful to your life. It has impacted my life in a very positive way. So maybe if next time you go to the bathroom, just keep your phone in a different room and just sit there. And I guarantee it, if you practice this over and over, and you have an open mind to this, because this is at the start, it's very uncomfortable. It's not fun. It isn't fun, but I think kind of knowing all of the positives that come from it will kind of encourage you to do more. That's kind of what happened with me. So just know boredom increases energy, increases focus. It turns off your fight or flight nervous system, aka the parasympathetic nervous system. You begin to process thoughts and emotions better, and it just cleanses your mind and your nervous system overall. So, there's a lot of benefits from boredom. So, be bored more. Being bored is good. So, thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that. Thank you.